of it. The funny thing is this, I now get by express mail information sent to me by one of the multinationals about how good GMOs are. It won't harm us, we're just trying an experiment. My basic question to the person who's running the show and to Costec was simply this. The European Union Parliament only in February 2010 allowed genetically modified potatoes to be produced in Germany. Who was the parent company of this genetically modified company? BASF. Okay? Now, the proviso was that under no condition was this potato for human beings. It was going to make starch and enter in the textile industry, etc., etc. The Chinese, the Indians, the South Africans, they can get involved in genetically modified crops, just like the Germans can, because they know what they're doing. We will have to buy those seeds, my friend. And that is what is wrong, okay? That in fact, all this food production is out of our control. And we do not seem to take the thing seriously. I think I've spoken enough.
I'll just try and flick through, and forgive me if I've missed out some of them. Irrigation, it's not true that Tanzania has unlimited rain or lots of rain, or, I mean, in fact, very few rivers really, and you can go for long and you see little water in them. And the irrigation schemes that have occurred, the early ones are often not very successful. They're really bad cases of salinity, bad cases of failure to really develop the right cropping systems. But it may be changing. I mean, one irrigation scheme in Mbarali, I'm pretty sure from memory, I remember when it was first built, there was complaints that the farmers, not just outside the scheme, got the same yield as the irrigation farmers, but without all that investment. Now I'm told that there are places where they're putting 3 crops of rice in a year on the irrigation scheme. Now, if you do that, you will get your money back. So there is a place for irrigation, but it's not a panacea. And it's just not true that Tanzania has unlimited land and you can just go and plant. It just really is not true. The statistics raise a lot of questions, and there is actually, I mean, the statistics for agricultural production from small-scale farms are intrinsically very difficult to collect accurately. If you have mixed cropping in a field, what is the yield? You know, that sort of question. So I'm inclined to be very suspicious of them. I actually think that more work needs to be done on Tanzania statistics, perhaps starting with the household budget survey, the methodology that the household budget survey is coming up, and I hope that REPOA might even consider that sometime. Efficiency, output's low and declining, and that is indeed what some of the figures show, but there are some concerns I have as to whether that's really true. I mean, it will be true of some crops. It will be true of, I mean, I was in Mbinga. I suspect that's true of coffee in Mbinga, because there's so much complaint about various problems with disease and lack of, so I can believe it in some cases. In other cases, it won't be true. And so we just have to be very careful. You do need coordination. Sugar outgrowers, sugar cane. I mean, I was told that now half the sugar going to the Kilimanjaro factory is from outgrowers.
The cost is very high.
Yeah.
Given the structure of the sugar market globally.
The interesting about the World Bank's change of heart, that the World Bank, I mean, it's something that's complicated. You can obviously find people in the World Bank who did support agriculture right through. But what I think happened was that the big schemes that the World Bank supported in the 70s all failed, or they failed in their terms. And as a result, they got very disillusioned, so they wouldn't support major schemes after that. And in the period of the 80s and into the 90s, it was therefore neglected relatively. Don't say absolutely there was something, but it was by and large neglected. And so now, it's suddenly this change, which has occurred because there is a crisis in commodity markets. I mean, made worse by speculation, of course. But there is a crisis there. And it's especially in foods, and in jumping to what Adolfo was saying, it does lead to the danger of a land grab. It does lead to the danger of a banana republic. It could happen if huge areas of the Rufiji Valley are given over to commercial farming and the crop is just shipped straight out to Korea or somewhere like that. There is a danger that Tanzania gets no benefit any more than same issues about Gator Gold. Yeah. Just the same issues. And that could easily, so that is a possibility, and that's why getting the concession agreements right and making sure that Tanzania benefits and not just a few people working there, but the economy as a whole, and that's getting the contracts right and dealing with issues of corruption and openness and transparency. All those things very difficult and important. What I'm saying is that in many parts of Tanzania, relatively small farms. And obviously, we have to be very careful how we generalise here, because a small farm on Mount Kilimanjaro or in Tukuyu is quite different from a small farm in Sukumaland or a small farm in Songea. So we're talking about different things. But relatively small farms can be viable. You can't actually stop somebody selling their land or passing or somebody. I mean, there will be cases where people expand, and the giving of title is actually making that more likely. I don't know whether the people who promoted giving title to land to individual farmers realise the consequence of it would be that some people would lose their land. Because the whole point is you have a title, you then borrow money against it. If you don't pay back, you lose your land. And somebody else takes it and it's sold. Now that is the only reason you do it, otherwise there's no point in having the security if you're not going to do that. So that is built in. Now I don't know whether everybody who supported title realised that would be one of the implications. But replacing small with large, I mean, it's always been an issue that there are large farmers, even in areas of mostly small farmers. I did a study of groundnuts production in Nzega. It's not a major crop, but I found one or two big farmers were completely dominating it, even then. And a lot of farmers who did just a few groundnuts, and a few big ones who had great big production of groundnuts. So there's always been inequality. I guess it's a matter of keeping it within some range, not too extreme, so that you don't have to be big or small. But I mean, that may be just copping out a bit there. And then we get to the political economy. I didn't perhaps make it. I mean, I was hinting at it without fully expressing it. So maybe it's useful to have it and try and tease it out a bit more. Who is driving it? Who is behind it? Well, clearly some of these international interests are driving it and behind it, as Adolfo has shown us. Clearly there are people who would like to work with those international interests. So there are things there. On the other hand, if that is harnessed in the right way, some of that could be very beneficial for Tanzania. It's not saying it's impossible, but it is saying that it's difficult. And what is also true is that small farmers are not organised in competition with large farmers in that sort of way. So it's very hard for the voice of the small farmers to be heard. Perhaps that's what I was trying to put in my position, to correct the imbalance a bit, or to point out that even in the words of Kilimo Kwanza, there is lots of things which could be used to support small farmers, even if the actual political economy, if you like, is much in favour of the large. I don't know whether that's compatible with what you were thinking. I'd be interested to take that one further forward. And finally, I think I'll stop with Marjorie. Yes, I take most of your points very, very strongly and seriously. I think that I mean, there's no way, which was in my paper, does justice to the issue of families and women and so on. It really skates over it very inadequately. The thing that I'm interested in is that we actually have Maendeleo, not just Kilimo. We actually, whatever happens, it does actually feed into a better living, even if it's still hard work. Now, how you cope with all those unpaid hours of labour and so on, that's a very difficult one. And I mean, the same debate, in the West, should we have an imputed value of housework or pay for housework, these sort of things. The main thing is to recognise that the women are there. because very often they're just ignored completely in these discussions. So I suppose the least I could say is I did mention them, even if I got it a bit wrong. And I'm very much think that's something which should be developed more. So I'm sorry, I've not done justice to everybody, but there's an awful lot in those points. I hope some of you who don't feel I've answered your point will have time to come back, or we can talk later.
I cannot keep on talking and talking. I believe even if time we could go on till tomorrow. I would suggest that probably you further the conversation with Andrew through his email. You have the emails, you have the telephone number. You can continue with the debate. Remember, this is essentially debate. We can't finish today.
So it seems that we've seen that we have fertile ground for further research. Last year at REPOA we had one of the main theme was Kilimo KWANZA. So we hope to see more forum of discussion. It's not a one-time thing you can say, we solved that problem last year. No. It's stimulating continuous interest in this area. So we're making this workshops more regular. We're still organizing ourselves on how to make them more regular, probably once a week, so that we can continue to debate on these issues, either on finished products or even on work in progress, so we can continue to share knowledge in the making. In the end, we'll be able to say maybe we have a better resource in terms of knowledge society, a better informed society by our work. So, everybody, thank you very much for continuing with the debate. Your work was very well known in those days. Plant stacking contracts, political economy of Tanzania, the fertilizer plant. Trying to see what's behind this. I think that's what research should be about. Things on the surface may be hiding a lot of things on the ground. So this is what researchers should actually bring out, so that you provide knowledge to society. So you'll be hearing from us on how we want to make these seminars more frequent, more regular, probably more open, so that we can actually continue these debates. So, thank you very much. Karibu tena. You'll be with us on and also shall be able to discuss some of these issues and related issues. Asante sana, karibuni sana.
Tuvo que tocar ya, tuvo que quererlo, tuvo que comer, diríamos que ya.